Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hope everyone can see me, hear me okay. This is really one of my first times of creating a video in a long time. um, More specifically, it's my first endeavor at trying to help others. So the goal of this first video is to get through the my part of it without crying and to help others. Um, as I look online, I search, and I'm 43 years old, very technical, very good at technology. I teach it, I live it, I work it in telecommunications. I don't see many things online, many videos and groups for people diagnosed with MSA at a younger age. And what I mean by that is everyone seems to be pretty far along in this MSA before there's videos. Like, you see videos with uh, my life, like basically my life's ending, and here's a video showing who I am and what I'm about, what I'm leaving behind. And I don't see hardly any, if any, videos of when people first got a diagnosis. And I know that's a few things here that might be attributed to a few reasons, but it's a hard disorder to diagnose. And I think the only reason why I was so fortunate to get a diagnosis as soon as I did, as early as I did, is we took every appointment that was a cancellation. We took any appointment. We called for cancellations from other people who canceled appointments, and we went where we had to go. And not everybody could do that, but we were able to. I supported my wife and everyone else, and we made it work. So here we are, December 6th, 2022, and I figured, got to put something out for somebody, for other persons who are going through this, might think they're going through it, to have something to look at rather than just the end of life videos, which, with all due respect, information on there is, can't really interact with them and ask questions and follow up because people are in bad states. It's a byproduct of this disorder. So my name's David Knox. I'm 43. I've had a condition which I didn't know what it was almost 2 years. In February of 2021, yeah, we're almost 2023. In February of 2021, spontaneously, I noticed some symptoms. And just to be for the record, I've had 9 major surgeries, reconstructive jaw surgery, titanium. I've had 4 shoulder surgeries. I broke my back, had that done. I've had 2 knee surgeries, some other miscellaneous things, esophagus. I've had bipolar. I've been fighting bipolar with medication for the better part of 15 years. I have anxiety, but not the anxiety that most people have. It's just like that fight or flight anxiety. Like if you get me in a position or, got a fight or a confrontation, anxiety will show itself. But other than that, you may see some very minor shaking, like just general anxiety in front of people. I just don't like being in front of people. Here I am in front of a camera, but I never liked being in a group of people. I like being to myself and me, myself, and I for the most part. Happily married for 20 years. Just celebrated our 20th anniversary in August. I have 2 lovely daughters that are 17 years old and 11. Right, we are pretty normal, health-wise, mentally. We're stable. So I mean, just the whole background. We don't have anything we're struggling with or issues or things like that. I personally have had a pretty sick life. I should say I've been injured quite a bit, just random things. Not really doing things athletically, but just a weak body, weak bones, things like that, and battling borderline juvenile arthritis back in the day, and just a whole bunch of stuff growing up. I was never healthy. I've had surgery since I was a kid because things would break when they're not supposed to. Take out ligaments, do this, do that. Just it never had a clean break in life, I guess. Very injured, so I'm used to hospitals and surgeries and doctors, and I got medical files on top of medical files. It's never ending. So with that said, I have a history of medical conditions, but nothing out of this world. And I have no conflict of interest in making a video like this. So I'm not supported by any organization, even though I put a link on the channel and stuff like that. So I'm not making this selling medicine or promoting any product. I would never do that. That's for you to decide, not me. So almost 2 years ago, February 2021, as we're rolling up in 2023, I randomly noticed as my wife and I were walking into Best Buy, I noticed I made a comment to her. I said, hey, my feet feel like they're a step behind. By a step behind, I mean just a split second. You can tell when something's off with your body. It's the way it is. It felt like I was having to lift with my knees a little bit and drag the feet forward. Kind of like if you're walking through water at a beach or on sand on the beach, kind of like that. It's just a split second behind, and that was not normal. So that was my first symptom of something was wrong, and I paid no attention to it, which as an adult male, as a man, we tend to do these things anyway. We tend to just discard everything and ignore them, and that's life. Get over it, right? And that's what I thought it would have been. So it really started in my feet, my extremities, my legs, and that went on for about until the end of last year, at the end of 2021, when I noticed my hands. They felt swollen. They felt like I'd been punching some things, and but I don't punch things. I don't hit things, so. I went to my primary care physician and, like, did you hit it? Did you hurt it? Did you fall on it? Like, no, I mean, I've only had 10 surgeries, and I know if I've done something, right? And he ended up referring me to a rheumatologist because we thought maybe rheumatoid arthritis. Now, I'm not a doctor in medical. I'm not as smart as a lot of people here. So if I say the wrong thing, I apologize. And if I insinuate the wrong thing, I apologize. I'm not trying to stir up topics here, but just tell you my side of the story. So my PCP sent me out to a rheumatologist. Great woman. And he's a great doctor too. And she started looking at me, and we did a whole bunch of tests, a lot of blood work. And she came back and said, well, your blood tests and things for rheumatoid arthritis, because I was borderline for juvenile rheumatoid arthritis when I was a kid. So in the back of my mind, I was like, well, maybe it's rheumatoid arthritis. And she did a whole bunch of blood work, and it all came back negative. Perfect. I mean, all my blood work, for the most part, has been absolutely normal. And all of it is within reason, by the way. Even the abnormal blood tests, I think 2 of them to this point were over, but still within. Not scary, not clinically significant, I guess is what they say. So, we did all these tests, and she said, you get a different number from a different doctor, but she says, 40-50% of rheumatoid arthritis patients actually have that seronegative. I say zero negative, but seronegative, where you can't detect it in the blood, but it's there, or it's too early to detect it, it's there. So we were going with that theory that maybe rheumatoid arthritis was prevalent, right? Especially in the hands. Because I went to go see her about the hands, as I recall, not really about the feet. I kind of got distracted by things, right? Because the feet didn't get any worse, so ignore it, right? And she gave me some medicines, some really crazy medicines. I guess some of the medicines they give for leukemia, like just a very mild dose, methotrexate or something like that. Yeah, some really bad side effects. But you know what? I did it. When I say bad side effects, it was horrible. There are things that happened to my body that I've never had or never thought about. But I was going to do it if that meant getting rid of this, because I went from 140 words per minute with no error typing to sluggish, right? Even now with my hands up, you might be able to see the twitching of it as I'm moving, the tremor, as we call it. I used to be, and this one's slowed down a lot too, but I used to be so quick at typing at work and stuff, and now I can't really put the stuff together. It's today. So today is probably the worst day I've had in 2 years as far as tremors and moving my hands. Like even my mouse today has been glitchy. It's been spastic. It's been a really crazy day. So, we went on a bunch of medicine, and after that, the bad side effects from the medicine, we went on some different stuff to kind of knock it down. And, it seemed to kind of help with the hands, kind of make it more flexible, right? But it was still there, and it was hard. It was hard. I still they felt swollen, but they weren't, and they're not. So it took me a while to understand the words I'm trying to say about my hands. So swelling, they gave me everything for swelling, right? But it was what actually happened. She came back and she says, these other side effects you have, these other symptoms I have with the feet and the hands. And I told her, like, I can't, it was much better than it was now, but I'm starting to not be able to move my hands and do what I got to do. And she comes to the conclusion that I should see a neurologist because it's not normal what's happening. And that's not rheumatoid arthritis. Some of it could be explained by it, but not being able to move your body definitely is not. So she referred me out to a very nice neurologist, another lady in Munster, Indiana, if I still see to this day. And she looked at it. We had some concerns. And of course, one of the biggest things we do in the digital era is we Google our symptoms, which is not a good thing to do, but it gives us some self-relief by Googling our stuff, right? By giving us some symptoms and stuff like that, by seeing what we got and being okay with ourselves and happy and things like that. So Googling, and we come across a lot of things. And, my wife and I took a while to get into a neurologist, but my wife and I started slowing down on the body and movement and other symptoms that I don't say too much of, but we started to lean towards ALS. Just going from swinging one way to the other, and we were both confident it was ALS. We were looking at stuff and being pragmatic and honest with our symptoms and what she sees, what I saw, what I felt, and we come to a neurologist and she says, no, she says the onset of it, how it began, is not consistent with ALS. Right. And at that time, when I saw this neurologist, I started to have these tremors. And when I say tremors, I mean, I feel today, but also before, I feel like I'm in a washing machine, a dryer, a dryer and washer. That's what I feel like. Even though you can't see it unless I do things or it's really bad, the tremor is constant as of right now. And when it started, I had good days and bad days. I had some days where it was most of my time was no tremors that I felt. Not that you could see it, but I felt my whole body, not just one leg and one arm or whatever. It's the whole body. And, so it was, my symptoms were getting kind of sporadic. Some autonomic issues I had with the bladder control, both, number 2, number 1. Male performance issues. I mean, these things were they were mostly okay, but they were creeping up. The symptoms weren't 24 hours. They weren't 7 days a week, but I'd have a day here, three good days, 1 bad day, 2 bad days, 5 good days. It alternated, but mostly good days rather than bad days. So life was, still okay. Kind of weird at times, but it was okay. And she was very, very clear. She says it could be ALS, but she says because of the onset, how these symptoms have started in the order they started, she doesn't think it is. Basically, it can't be. And she really didn't have a clue. What she was seeing was something that a movement disorder specialist, a neurologist specialist, needed to diagnose. That wasn't her cup of tea. That wasn't her specialty, which the more we find out, the more doctors we talk to, it makes perfect sense, right? We can't be great at everything. So she was at least good at diagnosing and saying, hey, this is not normal at all. So she referred me out to Indiana University, or IU Health, in Indianapolis. Their neurological research center, if that's what it is, but it's a research center. So the people you go to, kind of like the Mayo Clinic and stuff like, you go to the Mayo Clinic when you don't know, you need those experts, right? That actually know, that have seen it all. Because my neurologist up here hadn't, obviously it's clear she hadn't seen a lot of these cases because they're incredibly rare. MSA only affects about up to 15,000 people in the United States of America, and worldwide up to 300,000 people. It's rare. And it's even more rare to catch somebody in an office that's young. I mean, I think I'm pretty young, 43, right? 41 when it happened, 42 when I started getting symptoms, 43 right now, so just turned 43. So normally people come in and they're far along. It takes a long time to get diagnoses, and by the time you get the diagnosis, it's well, the issues you can see from a mile away, right? Not like mine, where you might be able to struggle to see what I got right now, right, on a video. So we go out to Dr. Cynthia Bodkin at IU Health in Indianapolis. And I just want to say that when my wife and I saw her for the first time, she says, basically, tell me why you're here, even though she knew, but tell me why you're here. She let me speak unconditionally for 30 minutes probably, without saying a word or interrupting me. And I'm a person who teaches technical training, and that's one thing, right? Listen to what people tell you. And I thought that was absolutely crazy. I never had a doctor that let me speak freely and say everything that's wrong, right or wrong. And Cynthia Bodkin. And she came out, she says, well, I got 3, based on what we're looking at, she has a top 3 of what she thinks it could be. 1 could have been ALS, 2 was a resting tremor, and 3 was multiple system atrophy. But she said from the very beginning, she thinks it's MSA. Right off the top of her mind, right off the tip of her tongue, quick, concise, and said, this is what it is. I said, you don't think it's ALS or anything else? She says, not really, but that's on my top of my list if it's not MSA. She knew, because she was a behavioral disorder, a movement disorder specialist in neurology. She knew what she was looking at, and she's seen these cases before. It's clear that she knew exactly what it could be and what it couldn't be. So my wife and I were flabbergasted about how she knew it like that, right? It was kind of nice, but it was also bad when you started reading about it. So fast forward over the last, hasn't been that long, half a year maybe, if that. I don't think it's even been this long. It's been quite a few months. Like I said, we've been taking every cancellation appointment, period, and I think that's why we got in there. We got everything done. Every blood test. They tested for I give them more blood than the Red Cross does. I mean, that's a joke, but I can't believe the amount of blood tests I've taken, the amount of MRIs, CTs, X-ray, absolutely looking for lesions on this neck, the spine, this brain. That's how they could tell. And the only way you can see MSA definitively is after death, autopsy, looking for hot cross type patterns on the brain. That's really the only way to know. Lucky for me, or fortunate enough for me, there's a recent test that is absolutely a silver bullet for Parkinson's and like MSA. And that's called a DAT scan, DATSCAN, one word, DAT scan. And we got that one done a month ago or so. And sure enough, it saw it and said, so if you got Parkinson's, they know when it's Parkinson's. If it's not Parkinson's, but something else, one of these other very neurodegenerative, fatal non-curable diseases, it comes back abnormal, and they know what it looks like. So it came back abnormal, and it was definitive for MSA. Because things like ALS, you can't really diagnose. There's no way to. It's you get rid of everything else, and then it's ALS, right? MSA, fortunately for myself or for who has MSA, that DAT scan is really a silver bullet, as long as you're far enough along into it, right, to see the symptoms. And what it was looking for was at my 2 parts of the brain in the back, the part that controls basically when you're drunk. That's what one. So of those 2 parts of my brain, one had stopped sending signals. The putamen, I think putamen, and there's another one. The putamen had stopped sending signals. So what you're getting with this MSA is drunken behavior, progressively more drunk, um, not knowing it, but I don't feel like the crazy drunk, right? With liquor. I've been there before. But that's what you're getting. You're getting a person who can't control their motor movements because the brain has stopped sending these signals. So for control, and kind of like all degenerative diseases, muscles and nerves start to waste away. From what I understand. So, um, it was tough. It was nice to have an answer, and that DAT scan only took. When we were driving back from Indianapolis, we got stuck by a crash. So the results came in within 2 hours. It was that quick. It's crazy to have a test come back that quick. Um, so the legs started off slow, a little offbeat. My hands felt like they're swelling. I wasn't able to move them the way I can normally move them. I noticed a slur on my left side of my body. I don't really notice on the right, but the left side of my face is slurred. Don't be distracted by like a lip that doesn't move. That's from my reconstructed jaw surgery. It's called nerve damage. So it happens to everybody, but that's not that. But slurring of speech all the time. Well, not all the time. Now it's all the time, but back in the day it wasn't. I felt like I was having some cognitive lapses, if I can say that. I'd be talking and then I just draw a blank. I'm trying to spit words out, but the mouth ain't moving, and then I go right back into it. It's just I don't understand. It's like I've drawn a blank at certain times, and then the body catches up, and there you go. I felt very exhausted. There are times during the day where I get hit like extreme exhaustion, driving randomly, or it could be any time. Just like I better get to a bed because this ain't good. This is like that tired. I just out of nowhere. I started getting these shocking pains, electrical stimulating pains, kind of like being tased. I actually know what that feels like, but being tased. The first one was in the back of my head, right middle, back left. It was the worst pain I've had in my life, probably. I about crashed with my family inside the SUV, screaming in pain. As a man that's had all this, me and pain are best friends. And this thing almost made me crash. It was that bad, like horrible. I've never had something in my life like this. And ever since then, that one's been nagging, the shocking pains. But they don't know what this other part of it is shocking throughout my whole body: feet, legs, abs, ribs, arms, fingers, legs. I mean, random places, shocking. Not as bad as this one back here. But when you get shocked, a certain place, like a very sensitive place, like your stomach or inside of your thigh, it's very tender, it's sensitive, so you jump a lot more, and it hurts a lot more, right? So I get these shocking pains all day, dozens and dozens. I'm used to most of them by now, so only when it hits a new area does it really, really hurt. I had one that was in between the ab and the upper hips, and that hurt like crazy. That's some weird shocking pains. And we can't trace that down though. We don't know what that is yet, right? So the shocking pains is kind of weird. So, I have such difficulty. So last year I was on a cruise, and I just come off a cruise, but I was on a cruise ship last year, and I was still able to play basketball very good on the cruise ship. I just wanted to test. I knew there was something wrong. It was getting worse. I wanted to test myself out a year into it almost. I was still pretty good. I was able to go out running with the kids and, the gym and stuff. I had issues, but they weren't like that, right? So over the course of a year, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't life and death. I could still operate 95% probably, right? Even more. It wasn't bad. I was still worried about my typing, but I could still kick it out, right? Reflexes were going down. And then over the winter, this past winter, from 21 to 22, coming into the beginning of this year, was when things started to expedite. Right? Things were progressively moving. If I can say it was heavily aggressive, it was, right? There's MSA it affects everybody differently. That's the problem. I get affected this part first, you get that first, and mine, I get big part, this one for you and me, and then you get a little. What I've learned is everybody's the same. The onset, the symptoms, how much, how often, it affects very similar portions of the body, but it's so crazy. It's very progresses at different paces for different people at different parts of the body. I was just looking at some of the symptoms. I really didn't know what to say because I'm really rambling about nothing. But, like the common symptom signs, slowness or movement, tremor, rigidity, stiffness, unusual. I told my doctor, I was like, if this is what I'd like to be old, let me know. This is kind of weird. Slowness of movement. I just came back from Miami, and I can tell you I can't dance anymore. The way I describe it to my doctor is my nerves are both hyperactive and hypo. They're shooting off uncontrollably, and yet they're not reacting when they need to. It's absolutely phenomenally weird to have that. Having when you're cold and you get the shivers, uncontrollable shivers. You can't stop it. Uncontrollable. Um, Orgasms, things like that, uncontrollable. Just the weirdest things, right? Part of that brain, it's so that you don't kick too much or kick too little. Like when you're walking, you're moving, not too much, not too little. And when that part of the body stops working, you can't control that. So you're walking like a Bozo the Clown or like a circus guy with big shoes. It's hard to control. Um, and we were out at a little party, and I was trying to dance, just a two-step, just something back and forth. I kept trying to move my legs up and over, just one at a time, whatever, and they just up, down, left, right. They just were doing their own thing, and they wouldn't go. They wouldn't go. I can walk okay. I mean, I can still walk forward. I've tripped quite a few times. I've fallen quite a few times. I've caught myself. I've hurt my shoulders trying to catch myself already. Falling is about once a week thing, but I'm aware. I'm pretty athletic still. I'm in good shape, so I can kind of negate the falling by thinking ahead. Don't be walking down the hallway and turning back. Don't be walking this way and looking back behind you at the TV for something. That's a bad idea for me, right? There's things I know I can't do and I shouldn't do because it's not going to go well. Coming down the stairs is the first sign I knew something was wrong, really wrong. Coming downstairs at any level, the knees were just not giving out, but they were shaking. The kneecaps were shaking uncontrollably. My meniscus would hurt so bad because my knees were shaking so much, so quickly, so fast coming downstairs. Both of them. Coming up, not so bad. To me, that's like a blunt force. I can force my way up the stairs. That's cool. Coming down, it's a controlled free fall. That's going to be the death of me. It's coming downstairs, right? But when those legs give out, and it's not that they're weak, but the shaking feels like they're about to give. That's when I knew something was tragically wrong. I came out of a court appointment one time, and coming down these long, wide stairs was detrimental to my health. It was horrible. So, we had all that stuff, and ever since then, I have spasms. Not the tremors or tremors, but spasms. Very weird. I get half body, lower body, lower torso, upper torso, so lower body, upper body, or the whole body just spasming, whatever, out of control. Just a big jerk, right? I'll be watching TV and the police are breaking down the door, and they're hitting left and I'm jerking right. Right. I was watching TV last night and my whole body just went jerk to the right because they were doing something to the left on TV. It's like my body's trying to compensate for what they're doing on TV. It's absolutely nuts. It's weird. And one of the biggest reasons also she said that she believed it was REM disorder, or it was MSA, was because she believes I have REM behavior disorder. I don't have nightmares. Never have. I don't know what that feels like. I don't free fall and sleep or whatever. Things like that. More or less because I take some bipolar medicine that knocks me out at night. With all due respect, it knocks me out bad. It's one of the only Seroquel. It's one of the only medicines really for bipolar that has a sedative quality to knock you out to get good sleep. Good is relative, by the way. And I've always kicked and done things, more like in the last couple of years. And then the other night, this year, over the summer, I think, I was over the top of my wife. I had both her hands in my one hand, and I was coming down with my right hand to attack her in my sleep. And she yelled, "David," and I woke up out of it like that. And I looked at it and said, well, this isn't bad. I knew where I was. I knew the position I had. I just don't know how I got there. You're not supposed to act out your dreams. The mind paralyzes yourself, so you can't act out dreams. You have them, but you can't act them out. And ever since then, I've been punching things, I've been kicking things, I've been yelling. My wife says I tell someone to get out my office or fired like every other day. Things you just don't normally do, but the acting out movement-wise is a key indicator. And I think like a week ago, no more than a week ago, I was on my bed sideways, my king-size bed sideways. And my wife comes in, she's like, "You good?" I said, I think I chased somebody. That's probably the first time I know I've gotten out of bed and did something, because you wake up out of REM sleep really easy when something's going wrong. You're not deep sleep where you can't be woken up. No, it's not like that. When I be punching, so I pulled a lot of punches on my wife to sleep, and I know that I'm sleeping because as I'm sleeping, I feel the wind on my fist going forward, and that sensitivity, I wake up out of it so quickly that I'm pulling a punch to the side because I know where she's at in the bed. I know if I yelled in my sleep, because I wake up so quickly, I can hear the reverberations, the vibrations or echo coming back that quickly. So, REM REM behavior disorder is the quote unquote precursor to Parkinson's. If you got REM, RBD, they call it REM sleep disorder, behavior disorder, you're probably going to get Parkinson's quickly. It predicates everything before Parkinson's. That's a telltale sign something's bad. And MSA mimics Parkinson's. Parkinson's, I'm not an expert, guys. Please don't kill me in the comments. Parkinson's takes time, years, decades to fully get there. You have certain tremors, but not these tremors, right? I got both resting tremors and action tremors, right? Parkinson's isn't that way. There's things that affect Parkinson's that don't ever happen in MSA, where they go completely opposite. So, the RBD was one of the biggest symptoms. She said RBD, REM behavior disorder, and the incontinence, like the problems with bowel movements, and I don't have constipation. It's just like I can't seem to hold it, or I got to run. These are not normal things for myself. But that RBD was the biggest clue to her that you got something more than ALS or whatever. You got something significant in line with the Parkinsonisms, what they call it, something like that in that category. So, as of right now, I'm good at walking forward. I can jump up and down still, but sideways and backwards is detrimental. Slurred speech, I still talk like I'm drunk half the day, even at work. People know me though, but I slur speech all day long. When I'm around people or high anxiety situations, just anxiety in general, it gets worse. It gets real bad. The last couple of weeks, I think the last week I was over Thanksgiving, and I could tell my voice was changing. So what I'll say is all these symptoms just don't come and they're there. Not for me. They came and they went, they came and they went, they came. So they progressively got more and more worse. They stayed for longer amounts of time, but they started off little here, little there, and then they worked themselves and they became permanent, right? Like my tremors are now, my slurring is right now, my shaking, my walking, all this stuff, right? Sometimes I can't put words in my mouth, but it came over time. It wasn't just like this. But, when you know your body, and something's off, you got to go say something. Got to go see somebody, okay? The clumsiness, coordination, impaired speech, croaky, the voice thing just started, and it only happened for a couple of days here and there, and it hasn't happened since, right? That's how most of my symptoms started, here and there. Sometimes I had no days of shaking or tremors, and, I was like, wow, I woke up over the summers. I told, wow, I got 2 days of no shaking. I feel normal, right? And sure enough, when I say that, next day, turns out here goes tremors for like 2 weeks straight. Lightheadedness, I thought it was just me getting out of the hot baths, hot showers, right, hot jacuzzi or whatever. I thought that's what that was, change of blood pressure. MSA, hypostatic, they call it hypotension, stuff, orthostatic hypotension. That's another thing that shows it's probably MSA rather than all these other diseases. So I've had a few times of blacking out, darn close of, hurting myself significantly. That's a big one. Bladder control problems. Like I said, though, MSAP, that's so MSAP, the Parkinson's type disease of MSA is primarily Western Hemisphere over here in the U.S. and North and South America, Europe as well. And then MSAC, what do they call that? Cerebellar type. That's mainly Asia. So I seem to have a mix. MSAP is primary for sure, but I have some symptoms for C. Like, for instance, MSAP talks about similar to Parkinson's, but moving slowly, stiffness, tremor, along with balance, coordination, and autonomic nervous system dysfunction. In MSAC, primary symptoms are ataxia, problems with balance and coordination, difficulty swallowing, speech abnormalities, quivering voice, abnormal eye movements, things like that. So, the symptoms I have for speech abnormalities, the voice thing I just a couple of weeks ago, right, over Thanksgiving and here, eye movements haven't been that bad. I'm not going to dismiss that until I know it's something like that. The speech abnormalities is one of the biggest ones. So you can have overlapping symptoms in MSA from I know of. And I thought it was ALS too, because the tremors I thought were spasticity or whatever they call it. I thought it was the muscles moving by their own because they were dying. That's what I thought it was. But it wasn't specific muscles. It was the whole body is shaking or whole arm. So that wasn't ALS. That was another cue that it wasn't that thing. It wasn't ALS. Additional MSA symptoms, it says, is contractures, chronic shortening of muscles or tendons around joints, which prevents joints from moving freely. Welcome to to MSA. Abnormal posture. My neck has almost been hurting nonstop, and sometimes I want to think it's the shaking that's making everything hurt, like the shoulder pain and knee pain. But this neck pain is something I've never had in my life, like this bad. Headache is a headache, guys, but the whole neck and the upper where the neck meets the brain, the skull, it's tragically, it hurts horribly, right? So I'm starting to think that the posture part of it is coming into play right now. I'm about 2 years in. Neck bends forward, head drops down, involuntary uncontrollable sighing and gasping. I told my wife, I feel personally like I'm losing it a little bit mentally. The laughing, the crying. We all get that, especially when you got something bad. But I laugh at some things I shouldn't be laughing at and cry at some things I shouldn't be crying. It's just a way of reaffirming my brain that something is missing back here, right? And then sleep disorders, right, including a tendency to act out dreams called, REM, rapid eye movement behavior disorder, stuff like that. So to conclude, I'm not going to take up 40 minutes. It's 38 minutes right now because I talk a lot, but I want to put some more videos piece by piece of everything I went through, make it more to the point. This is kind of like an overview. If you guys like it, I get some feedback and stuff like that, then I'll invest in a better camera and a backdrop and try to make it as professional as possible. I'm not that good at it, but I'll try for you guys. It helps you, it helps me. Okay, if it helps you, it helps me. But it's an uncurable fatal disorder. It's tragic. Like I said, I don't see very many people on YouTube or websites that are younger-ish, like myself, that have gone through all the diagnostics, seen all the doctors, had everything I've had, all the shocking treatments, the blood pressure treatments, the sweating treatments. I haven't seen hardly anybody, in this industry or this industry and the websites and YouTube and stuff that has this, that you can relate to, ask questions. It's always been people towards the end of life. And I wanted to start something so that somebody else can have hope, ask questions, wonder if it is something, is it not? Because I started thinking rheumatoid arthritis to ALS and definitively MSA. So, in the future, I hope to be getting into Mayo Clinic or, some very higher end medical facility that for research, and I've already submitted stuff up in Rochester, Minnesota. So that's the goal, is clinical trials and Haven't really started a medicine for it. I'm on a couple of medicines to help make my muscles looser and stop some nerve pain. Not necessarily for MSA. Just you can't treat the disorder because it's untreatable, but you can treat the symptoms. So, conclusion. Please, don't try to crucify me if I said something wrong, out of order or context. I'm an average person that works in telecommunications, and I don't know the health except for what I read and my doctors tell me. And I can disseminate a lot of things, but I'm not right about everything. I wish I was. Okay, but what I do know is my body, how it's happening, what's going on, what's not working, and that's the first key to get help. That's the first key to see something. You never know, right? Life expectancy varies. People can live over a decade with it. They can die as soon as a couple of years, right? And my condition is moving along more than I thought. I'm probably operating about 60% right now. Probably won't be at work much longer, maybe a couple more months. I'm trying to stay there because I love my job. I like what I do. I had great employers, great coworkers. And also working is keeping me occupied from being at home and gaining more weight from depressive eating and giving up. So, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, reach out. I will always answer every question that comes through. Maybe not every comment, but every question. And, your support is appreciated. And please keep your head up, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you.